Greetings and welcome to the Adrian Dominican Sisters, a sister story. Today, we are privileged and happy to welcome our sister, Judith Rimbey, who presently resides in West Palm Beach, Florida, and has her ministry in West Palm Beach, Florida. However, she did not begin her life in West Palm Beach, Florida, so she'll fill in the blanks. So, Judy, welcome. And we are having an electrical storm. I hope we don't lose power. So I'll let you begin. You start where you want to, a little bit about yourself and then your ministry, not every ministry, but those that have been, mostly transformative for you. So thank you, and you're on.
Thank you. And thanks for your perseverance, Peg. Well, I started in Rockford, Illinois, born there and stayed there until I was 24 years old. I was raised two parents, and I had four siblings. My brother was the oldest, and it was boy, girl, and I was the second girl. I was the first girl.
Okay.
And we were all born between 1950 and 1955. So we were really quite close. And sad to say that my two brothers died really tragically, I would describe. One, my younger brother died in 2013, and my older brother in a car accident in 2018.
Wow.
And my parents are both deceased. So it's just my sister and me now. It's kind of hard to believe, really.
It is.
We always thought we'd be a big family.
And
so,
how is she doing? We've been praying for her.
She's good. She's, stable. She, had breast cancer.
Yes.
Actually a year ago, in August, she had her mastectomy, and it's like you never get over it.
No.
There are lingering effects I'm learning from the chemo, and she's just resigned, to that life. Her body is never going to be like it was. And I think most of our sisters who have had that experience would agree. And I might add, many of our sisters who have had breast cancer were so supportive to her. It's kind of the larger sisterhood.
Right.
And she was so grateful, both for the prayers and for people who called and told her what it was like when Pat and Kathy Nolan.
Yes.
So anyway, it was a wonderful, expansion of our sisterhood. I went to school, a grade school in Rockford, and I had the Franciscan Sisters. It was the parish grade school. And then from there, I went to Muldoon.
Okay.
And that's where I met our nuns. And in particular, my two sponsors were Therese DeCanio and Rosalia Hahn. And we just celebrated the anniversary of death of Rosalia in 1985. So she died quite young.
Yes.
I did not go to college after high school. I worked, and I worked in an insurance agency, and then I might add, my mother, we were really kind of raised by my mother and her three sisters. We come from an Italian background on my mother's side, and my dad's side was English and Dutch, but they were distant. They lived in Southern Illinois, so we only saw them like once a year. But my three aunts, my mother's sisters, lived next door to us the whole time. So they actually helped, having been born, in 5 years, they were really a great help, I think, to my mother. And another thing that, as I was thinking about this story, that impressed me with the Adrians is in my junior and senior year, two of my aunts died, and they came to the visitation, and in great numbers, and I
Oh,
remember that so vividly. And you know how a lot of our sisters talk about the joy that they saw in our nuns? I guess what I would use to describe our nuns at that point in life and even later is their relationality. I mean, they were very much relational people
right.
when often nuns were not. I mean, they kind of came to school, that was it, and they had their lives and, we had ours, but they were definitely relational people. And so that was, I always remembered that. But after I had my one aunt living, then I moved over to live with her. So it was
Oh,
quite different for me in my growing up. My other siblings were living with my mom and dad, and I was living with my aunt next door. And she died in 1974. So it was like not too much after the last one. And they sold the house. And so then I thought, well, I'm getting out of here. And I moved from Rockford to San Diego.
oh my, you really
And I
got out
thought,
of there.
I said, I need year-round sunshine. So this summer before I did that, I went to check it out on vacation to see if I could get a job. And so
Did you know
um,
anybody in San Diego? Did you know anybody there?
I knew my aunt's
Oh,
sister.
okay.
So I did live with her for a while, which was her family actually for a while. So that was good. But I was there, and again, I worked in insurance. And then I asked myself the question, is this all I want my life to be? And at that point, I wrote to Treese and Rosalia and asked them about the other thing that was quite providential in all of this is when I came back to Illinois to visit my family, they were there. They always ministered in high schools around the Chicago area.
Mhm.
And Teresa's parents lived in San Diego. So whenever they came, we always got together because I lived in San Diego. So, God does work in strange ways. So we always kept in touch. And that was about, let's see, from 74, about 78, so about 4 years. And I finally wrote, and then they in turn wrote back and said to contact Rosemary Ferguson.
Okay.
So indeed I did that, and I got a letter back from her. And from there we started the process. And in 1978, I went through the interview process. That was one of the questions about some person
Yeah.
who was significant. And that year, that was the last big entrance group.
How
We
many?
were
How
not,
many were you?
well, for interview weekend, we were 9.
Okay.
And that was 1978. And so, when we were doing our different interviews, they arranged to have us be with a sister, and they matched me up with Ann Guinan.
Oh,
And then,
finance. Yes, finance. Oh, good.
so that was very providential. We
Yes. Talk about the
kept,
spirit. Talk about God working
yes,
overtime. Yeah.
exactly. So anyway, that was really a beginning as well. Now I must say I don't keep up with her these days, but whenever if we ever are able to go into Adrian, I certainly would visit with her. So 1978, and I did get accepted. And so in August of 1978, I entered, and there were 8 of us at
Right.
that point. And Corinne and I are
Okay.
the 2 who are left. And they always teased me that I gave my old bones to
Yes.
the Lord. Because at that point, I was 27, but I had to check everything else out before I
Smart,
would
wise woman. Mhm.
decide to enter religious life. So that was my beginnings then in 1978. And I had Maria Romero as my candidate director, and Teresa Dish was my formation director, 2 wonderful, gifted, wise women. And the other thing I guess I would say people don't know is when it was time, a year into formation, when it was time to go study, of course, I didn't have my degree. And so I couldn't go to the seminaries in Detroit. So I said to Maria, Maria, why don't we
Why
go to
couldn't you go?
Chicago?
Wait a minute, Judy. Why couldn't you go to the seminaries in Detroit?
Because I didn't have a bachelor's degree.
Got it. Okay.
So I said, Maria said, why don't we explore Chicago? And so she said, well, you can do that. You can research it. And I said, well, do you think it'll be a waste of time? And so she said, well, I'll never forget this either. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I did
Right.
all my research. St. Dave's on the south side of Chicago had a very strong religion philosophy program. And so I met with Maureen Fay, and she put me in touch with the right people. And so I got the catalog and I color coded it according to what we had to, do for that year, and gave it to Maria. So one day it appeared in my mailbox in that mail room we
Yes.
had in the back of.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I was shuddering, and I thought there was one of those little yellow legal things sticking out of the thing. And it was from Teresa Dish. And so she said, proceed forward.
Oh, good.
So that
Okay.
was my first time to really, I was not a person who would buck the system, but I thought, well, this is important. And it was an absolutely wonderful year. The professors there were top notch, and it was just a solid foundation. And I loved being able to study theology, something I'd never done in my years before, and really would yearn to do that again. I wish we had a requirement where we had to do it, every so often, because it would
Right.
force
Now you put
us
it
to
on
keep up.
yourself. You require it of yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So anyway, that was my initial formation period. And then my first mission was at Aquinas High School in Chicago. And I lived with a wonderful group. The community was really created. And then we lived in Hyde Park, and then I would drive to Aquinas. And I was there from 81 to 84, and 83 was when we closed. And that was really, when you talk about transformative ministry, that was really a hard ministry. It was really kind of the writing on the wall was it probably wasn't going to make it. And my work as business manager was collecting tuition. And Jean Hughes was there as principal, and she was absolutely so supportive. Kathy Nolan was there as a dean of students. And, we really worked at collecting tuition. And so we had to set deadlines, and people had to, parents had to come up and with their tuition on time. And we'd stay open till like 8 o'clock at night. A lot of parents had 2 jobs.
Mm.
And after the last parent left, I never cut them off. And, I always listened, even though I often couldn't do anything. I always listened.
Mm.
And after we, closed the door, and Jean stayed the whole time. And I just sobbed.
Mm.
It was just a challenging ministry. After that, I went to Unity, which was the succeeding school, I guess you'd say, where our girls went for a year. And it was about time that I thought about studying. So I asked for full-time study, and I chose to study in Cleveland at Case Western. That was, again, a wonderful experience. It was a small school, and even though I was an undergrad, I was able to live in the graduate dorm. So all of that, because I was like 30 something. And again, when I asked for study, I asked if I could do bachelor's and master's all the way through. And so I was approved to do that. And so in 4 years, then I received my bachelor's, master's in accountancy. And so then after that, it was time to look for ministry. And at first, the congregation asked if I'd come back to work in the finance office. And I said, I think I need some experience in accounting, working in accounting. So I applied to 2 of the big 8 accounting firms. And I applied to more than that, but 2 were willing to take me. And one was Arthur Andersen, and the
Right.
other one was Deloitte. And so I was a year and a half at Arthur Andersen, and another unique, what I would describe as unique experience. I wouldn't call it ministry, but it was
Yes, it
unique, and
was
it was
ministry.
what wonderful, wonderful experience. So then after that, I came to Adrian and worked in the finance office. But my next, and that was probably 3 years, 4 years, I don't know, but it was my next experience when I went west again to Catholic Healthcare West. That was my another transformative experience. I was there, that was my longest ministry, about 11 years. And I did, what I describe as orchestrating their community grants program and their alternative or community investments. And that was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. It put me in touch with nonprofits who were doing so many wonderful things, Boys and Girls Clubs, Mercy Housing. We worked a lot with Mercy Housing. But the one that sticks out is there was this one, it's called SAGE, Standing Against Global Exploitation. And it was women really run. The president was a woman who was formerly a prostitute, and that all the women who worked in that organization were formerly on the streets.
Wow.
And it was amazing. And they invited me to all their graduations when, women would go through their program and then be willing to change their lives. And so that was really a remarkable. And the other thing I learned was women don't want to be prostitutes. There are underlying factors that really make them either raising a family or drug habits or that, sort of thing where until they get help, they can't move on.
Right.
So that was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And then in 2004, I was elected to the General Council. Again, another great, exciting, and rewarding experience. Yeah.
Your adjectives are beautiful.
The thing I loved about that was meeting so
Yes.
many of our sisters.
Yes.
You know, Sarah and I would go on the road with financial awareness, and that
Right.
was just a wonderful, wonderful. I'm glad it wasn't the pandemic, you know. But we would go and meet our sisters, and it was truly just a wonderful
Right.
experience. And 6 years. So then after that, you know, I needed to look for next ministry, and I went to New York. The other thing, I guess I'd say is I've been in every chapter in
Okay.
the congregation, which is kind of unique as well.
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, most people kind of stay in one place, but I
Right.
have been in all of the chapters. Now that I'm in Florida,
And you know, you've not only been in them, you've lived in them. It's not just that you visited them, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
oh
yeah, you
right, no,
lived
I've
in them.
lived it. Oh yeah, no, just visiting doesn't count. I don't. So,
But you haven't been to Holy Rosary chapter.
no, that's right.
You will someday.
You're right. Yeah, right.
Okay.
You
Okay.
saved that one for last, right?
Yeah.
So anyhow, I was in New York and director of finance for the Religious of the Sacred Heart of Mary. And again, that was great. Part of the country I've never been to before. And then got a call to come to Rosarian. And I did move then in 2014 and was at Rosarian for a year. And then that just didn't work out. So then I took 6 months off and came back. And I want to say probably at this point, I love CASA. It is with great sadness
Yes.
that understandable, and I support it, but it's with great sadness that we have sold, and you know we'll need to be moving on. But it is absolutely, when Carleen Malley designed this place, it's perfect because you have community, but you're sort of not on top of one another.
Right.
And particularly true when you have varying ministries. You know, I often don't get home until 5:30, 6, sometimes later than that. And when Pat Leonard was here, that was, you know, true as well. So it was just perfect. And until we got the news, I had always hoped that this would be a place where Dominicans of all sorts could come and find community, because again, the space is great, but that's not going to happen. That's not in God's plan. So I came back after my 6 months off and applied or interviewed at Cardinal Newman, and I've been there since. So that would be 2016.
Wow.
So I'm in high school. At first I was the business office assistant, and then the person who was the business manager decided to retire. So I took over for 2 years doing that. And then we just switched jobs. And then she wanted to go. So I thought, I don't want to do this. It's too much work. So at this juncture of my life, I didn't really want to do that. So I went back to the business office assistant, and that's what I'm doing now.
And you're happy.
Yes.
Yes, very happy. Well, your ministries, you've been all over, and they are ministries. You mentioned earlier that such and such was not a ministry. Every place we set our feet is a ministry, and our presence is there, because you know that we all preach in different ways, whether you're at Arthur Anderson or you're at Catholic Healthcare West story, or with the women that you so admired at that one facility, that group. Your presence has been invaluable there. And I hope you know that, what you have brought to those various ministries. What do you do for fun? Forget about work.
Not much.
I know. That's what I thought. No.
What I love to do, but there are not a lot of people who I love to go to different restaurants, but and I don't mind spending the money. I don't do it
Right.
that often, but I
It's
love
called
to
mental
try.
health. Mental health. Yeah.
Try new, and my good friend Susan is equally as game to try those things. So when she comes to visit, when she comes to Florida, or when I go to New York, we definitely do that. And Pat Leonard was good that way too. But not a lot of nuns like to spend money on
Food.
So anyhow, I do it when I can, and I'm not opposed to going by myself now that
Oh my gosh.
others.
That's
But
that's
it's
a
not.
sign of a very confident woman. I remember Judy Apple saying she'd go to a nice restaurant. I said, by yourself? And she said, yes. And I could just see her. She'd just sit there like she owned the world. That's wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. It's not as much fun, clearly,
No.
but
But
if there's something I really want to try, I'll do it. I mean, I wouldn't, like when I was traveling, when I was in on the general council and on the board at Catholic Healthcare West, I would always go because we had our meetings in San Francisco. I'd always go try new restaurants, but I knew the landscape from having lived there 11 years. So it was great. And there I didn't even have to pay for them.
What's your favorite meal? Not restaurant. What's your favorite meal?
Oh, I love Thai. I love Italian. Good Italian,
Okay.
Probably what I don't like is German. I don't like German.
It's a good thing you didn't say Irish. You didn't like Irish.
Well, they don't really have very good food anyway.
Good. Shepherd's pie is very good. What's your favorite candy bar?
I don't know. I don't eat very many anymore. Either Snickers or Reese Buttercup.
Okay. Are you reading a favorite book right now?
No, I don't read books.
Oh, you listen to them.
I read magazines. So The Atlantic is really my favorite magazine. And it's funny because Pat and Kathy Nolan are voracious readers. And the last book I read cover to cover was Michelle Obama's book. So that'll tell you how long it's been.
Yeah.
But I do read magazines, and I often will read The Atlantic from cover to cover. So that's almost like reading a portion of a book.
Right. That's okay. That's good. You do read. Now, your favorite scripture. Let's end on a favorite scripture and words of wisdom to the rest of us.
Well, my favorite scripture is the one I used when I made First Profession. It's from John. I can't quote it exactly, but where God says, there are many rooms in my house. But the scripture I always had next to me when I was on the council was the first part of Jeremiah 1, where Jeremiah is saying to God, but I'm too young to go. God was sending him out. I'm too young. And God said, no, you're not. And says to Jeremiah, I will give you the words to speak.
I know. I love that.
And that was really always, always true and comforting. Because sometimes what you had to speak wasn't always what people wanted to hear.
Right.
So in that regard, God has always been there.
Is there something about you that we would be surprised about? Within reason.
Well, I said this, they asked that question for general chapter, something. And I always give the answer when I turned 50. One weekend, well, I celebrated the whole year for one thing.
Good for
And
you.
then one weekend, it was a mission group weekend, and I was out in California at the time. I rented a convertible.
Oh, God. I love it.
And drove the coast. Actually, I didn't have time. I was working. So I took the highway, but then coming back that Sunday after the mission group meeting, I drove along the coast. It took longer, but anyway, that was my unusual for me.
I like that one.
Unusual
Unusual.
experience.
Okay, we're going to draw. We don't want you late for school on this. No, it's not the first day of school. But anyway, you have been a breath of fresh air, energizing. And thank you ever so much for your honesty and your openness with us.
You're welcome.
You're just a lot of fun. I remember when you entered. All right, so thank you ever so much. And I will continue reading The Persistent Woman because you're not the only one I've been persistent with.
Now, can I tell you one more thing?
Okay, I don't want you late. You go on.
A lesson you taught me.
Oh yeah, you can go on.
Remember when we were candidates, one of our jobs was to go pick up people at the airport.
Right.
And we didn't have any transportation people. So we'd have to go and you'd tell us and you'd give us money to go in case we had to park, that kind of thing. And I went and I came back and you gave us $20. And I came back and I could not find the $20. Now, from the kind of person I am. I was just, befuddled and I didn't know what to do. So I came to you and I said, Peg, I cannot find that $20 that you gave me. And you told me something I have never forgotten. Well, somebody else needed that $20 more than us. And I thought, wow, to approach it, to have that thought. I mean, I have remembered that.
Thank you.
My whole life.
I held my breath. I didn't know what you were going to say. Anyway, God bless you and thank you ever so much. And sometime I'll come down. I should come down and visit you before they sell them. It's already sold.
Yes, you should. You should.
Okay.
Others too.
Thank you so much, Judy Rimbey. Thank you.
You're welcome.